Let's get started with our first news. Joe Rogan has heard some chatter about a potential shock fight for Alex Pereira's UFC return in 2026. Rumors of this matchup have definitely piqued Rogan's interest. The next step for Poatan in the UFC remains unconfirmed as we head into the new year. The Brazilian will enter 2026 as light heavyweight champion, despite being removed from the throne by Magomed Ankalaev back in March. Pereira got his revenge on Ankalaev at UFC 320 in October, starting his second reign as the 205-pound king. If things go his way, the champ's next assignment could come in a completely different division. Rather than defending against a contender like Carlos Ulberg, Pereira immediately called for a move to heavyweight after his sixth win in 8 title fights under the UFC banner. Rogan has heard talk of that move actually coming to fruition, but not exactly in the way that Poatan had envisioned. While fans expected him to dominate a heavyweight contender and make a historic leap, the whispers suggest a matchup that could shock the MMA world even further. The details are still unclear, but it seems UFC officials might have something unexpected in mind, potentially throwing Pereira into a fight that no one saw coming. As always, the road for UFC champions is never straightforward, and Alex Pereira's path is shaping up to be one of the most intriguing storylines heading into 2026. Whether he stays at light heavyweight or tests the heavyweight division, one thing is for sure: fans are in for an exciting ride with Poatan at the center of the action. Move on to another news. Justin Gaethje recently got submitted by a former UFC champion during training, just weeks before his upcoming fight with Paddy Pimblett. This development has raised eyebrows across the MMA world, and the baddie may look to replicate a similar outcome when the pair collide at UFC 324. Pimblett is fast approaching his first title fight in the promotion, which will also mark the UFC's very first main event on Paramount+. The historic $7.7 billion broadcast deal will officially kick off with UFC 324 on January 24th, headlined by Pimblett's title clash against Gaethje. Both fighters will be competing for the interim lightweight belt, as the current champion, Ilia Topuria, is absent due to injury. Pimblett, known as the Highlight, is already a former interim champ, but he has yet to capture the undisputed throne at 155 pounds. Gaethje's history at lightweight shows that submissions have been a consistent challenge. He was first submitted by Khabib Nurmagomedov during his initial title shot, and later suffered the same fate against Charles Oliveira. These past setbacks have been well documented, and Gaethje has worked tirelessly to shore up his grappling. But recent training footage indicates that a similar finish could be on the cards for Pimblett when they step into the octagon in Las Vegas. The footage shows Gaethje caught in positions reminiscent of his earlier career, with Paddy demonstrating precise technique and control that could easily translate into a submission come fight night. While Gaethje remains one of the most explosive and feared strikers in the division, the possibility of Pimblett securing a submission victory is real, and it adds a layer of anticipation for fight fans around the world. As the UFC prepares for its landmark Paramount+ event, the stakes could not be higher. Pimblett has the opportunity to make a massive statement in his first title shot, potentially adding a highlight reel submission to his growing legacy. For Gaethje, is a chance to rewrite the narrative, but the warning signs from recent training are impossible to ignore. UFC 324 promises to be an electrifying night, with the interim lightweight title hanging in the balance, and Paddy Pimblett looking to prove that his grappling is just as lethal as his striking. Move on to another news. Jake Paul is being tipped to face Conor McGregor next in a hybrid fight with crazy rules, according to former world champion George Groves. After suffering the first knockout loss of his career on Friday night, the question on everyone's mind is what comes next for the YouTuber turned boxer. Groves, the retired super middleweight champion, believes he has the answer. The British boxing legend expects Conor McGregor to welcome Paul back to competition in 2026, in a bout that could feature 9 rounds under hybrid rules that have never been used before. Conor McGregor is the biggest name in mixed martial arts and very limited in his boxing ability. Groves told BetVictor Casino, "I think that'll be the route Paul will go down. You could get a ranking, you can get a WBC interim belt, you can get anything you want in boxing if you create and generate money. But fighting for the USA Cruiserweight Championship, no one cares." He needs to fight famous people. Conor McGregor would really sell. Groves also predicts that Paul will come out on top. I reckon Jake Paul beats Conor McGregor. Nothing can scare him anymore. He's fought Anthony Joshua, he's climbed Everest without a harness. Nothing can scare him. Conor McGregor certainly won't scare him. The trash talk will be exceptional. He might even get under Conor McGregor's skin. It could be a boxing match for the first 3 rounds, then a wrestling match, and then just bare knuckle for the last 3. I make Jake Paul the favorite. Conor McGregor hasn't fought since breaking his leg at UFC 264 in July 2021 and is currently gearing up for his eagerly anticipated comeback next year. The 37-year-old hopes to return to the Octagon on the UFC White House card on June 14th, though it remains unclear who he will face or if he will take part in the once-in-a-lifetime event. Michael Chandler, the former 3-time Bellator lightweight champion, has been chasing a fight with McGregor for years and appears to be the front-runner. However, he could miss out if Jake Paul's team approaches the UFC about the hybrid rules fight pitched by George Groves. Only time will tell when, where, and against whom Conor McGregor will finally return to fighting. But one thing is certain, fans are in for a spectacular showdown if this matchup comes to life. Move on to another news. Robert Whittaker has joined the growing list of fighters interested in transitioning to boxing after their MMA careers. Speaking on his MMA Arcade podcast, Whittaker discussed the recent fight between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua and revealed that he would be open to stepping into the boxing ring for potential super fights down the line. I think it looks good for Jake because it showed that Jake does have some level of boxing. He's a boxer, yeah. It turned into a bit of a thug fight by the end of it. Jake hasn't had that much experience, but he got paid a truckload of cash for it too. I'd fight AJ for $90 million. I'd fight AJ for much, much less, Whittaker said. When asked about the idea of moving into boxing himself, Whittaker admitted, yeah, it interests me for sure. Not actually having to go through the boxing circuit the way a lot of guys did. If I can move straight up into these, what are you going to call them? The sort of fights UFC guys are doing when they come into boxing, those sorts of matches. Yeah, I think there's some money to be made there. I think it'll keep me fit. It's definitely an aspect of the sport that I enjoy. I love fighting. To move into that field would be cool. Be a nice, fresh change. Whittaker emphasized that the transition wouldn't just be about money, but also about the challenge and the excitement of a new sporting experience. He sees boxing as an opportunity to test himself against a different kind of opponent while maintaining the intensity and focus he has always brought to MMA. I like to fight. That's what drives me, and boxing offers a unique way to keep that fire alive. The strategy is different, the pacing is different, but the heart required is exactly the same. I think it would be a fun challenge and a great experience, he added. While Whittaker acknowledged the differences between MMA and boxing, he also made a lighthearted note, advising himself and others, just don't throw that head kick after the 1-2, showing that even as he considers a new path, his MMA instincts remain strong. For Whittaker, stepping into the boxing ring represents not only a chance to earn, but to stay engaged in the sport he loves and embrace a fresh chapter in his career. Move on to another news. Joe Rogan has finally broken his silence on the current state of the welterweight division, and his thoughts have everyone talking. It's starting to look like the next title shot is coming down to Kamaru Usman or Michael Morales, and that's saying a lot considering how stacked the division is right now. Carlos Pro is right there too, even if he's not being pushed to the front just yet. Many are labeling him the breakout fighter of 2025 after 2 massive knockout wins, including that brutal second-round finish of former champ Leon Edwards at UFC 322, the same card where Islam Makhachev captured the belt. In a recent interview, Prochier said he'd obviously love a title shot, but he fully expects the UFC to give Usman the first crack at Makhachev. Because of that, he's already looking ahead to potential fights with JDM or Michael Morales. ESPN even highlighted him in their 2025 awards discussion after his spinning elbow knockout, one of the most memorable moments of the year, alongside Lone Murphy at UFC 319. Heading into 2026, the welterweight division is absolutely loaded. Usman, Morales, Gary Petises, and even the possibility of a big name dropping in for a super fight all feel like realistic options. Rogan weighed in on the top UFC welterweights, saying, "When watching Kamaru just ragdoll him like that, I was like, God, yeah." It looked like world champion level Kamaru. Like, a lot of people have kind of counted him out because of this narrative he puts out about his knees. Yeah, he talked about it on this podcast openly. His knees. He's like, "I got to go downstairs backwards sometimes because they hurt so much. I heard he went and did a lot of stuff to redo them, and now he says they're good, but I don't know about that." Rogan continued, "I know he went to Colombia, went down to that bioaccelerator place. I don't know if he's been to the place in Tijuana that the UFC uses now, the Cellular Performance Institute, but they're all very similar. You can still be a world-class fighter at that age. You could clearly see that with Kamaru. Like, a lot of people counted him out because Buckley was a lot of people up. Yeah, he was. Walking Buckley, bro. Woo, that guy's a problem. He's a pop problem. I've known him for a minute, man. He's wild and fast." Rogan's insights make it clear that the welterweight division is filled with dynamite talent and exciting matchups as we head into 2026. Move on to another news. Massive news just dropped from Kamil Gadviv, the longtime matchmaker for Khabib Nurmagomedov's Eagle FC promotion and one of the most trusted voices in Russian MMA media. Gadviv, who has long-standing ties to Khabib's organization and frequently reports on Team Khabib and fighters from Dagestan, shared a revelation that caught everyone off guard. In a recent interview with a Russian media outlet, Kamil stated that he personally witnessed a sparring session between Khabib Nurmagomedov and Khamzat Chimaev in Dubai. For context, Khamzat spends a significant amount of time training there, and Khabib often oversees camps alongside affiliates from AKA. On this particular day, both fighters happened to be in the same gym, surrounded by other Dagestani athletes. They exchanged greetings and, according to Gadv, agreed to do a quick grappling sparring session. Here's the exciting part. Kamil revealed that although Khamzat was able to leverage his size advantage to secure top control, it was Khabib who ultimately submitted him, locking in a triangle choke from the bottom. That's correct. The undefeated lightweight legend managed to tap the newly crowned UFC middleweight champion during training. Gadv went even further, explaining that this moment reinforces his belief that Islam Makhachev would defeat Khamzat if they ever faced off inside the octagon. According to him, Islam's submission game mirrors Khabib's, tight, suffocating, and technically distinct from Chimaev's style. If Khabib could make it happen, even while giving up size, Gadviv is confident that Islam would be capable of executing the same under the bright lights of an official fight. This sparring session, although informal, highlights the technical genius and precise grappling that Khabib continues to bring, proving why he remains one of the most feared submission specialists in MMA history. This revelation has sent shockwaves through the MMA community, sparking debates about the hierarchy of top Dagestani fighters and how their skills translate from training to the UFC octagon. Fans and analysts alike are now imagining a potential matchup between Islam Makhachev and Khamzat Chimaev with even more anticipation, knowing that Khabib's influence and guidance play a pivotal role in shaping the next generation of submission specialists. Seeing Khabib execute such a flawless submission against a champion like Khamzat reinforces his legacy and the technical dominance that continues to define his career. For fighters like Islam, this serves as both inspiration and proof that his game could succeed at the highest level when it matters most. Move on to another news. UFC champion Islam Makhachev has made it clear that he wants his next title defense to be against Kamaru Usman, citing the former welterweight king as his biggest challenge. In an interview with Red Corner MMA, Makhachev explained why Usman deserves a shot at the belt, even with hungry contenders like Michael Morales, Ian Machado Gary, Carlos Pradas, and the undefeated Shavkat Rakhmonov waiting in line. "I said that I wanted to fight Kamaru Usman next," Makhachev said. "Although the media doesn't believe in this fight, in my opinion, Usman would steamroll through each of these up-and-comers like Morales, Prates. Those guys haven't been checked yet. I think Usman would be the hardest fight for me. And in terms of media, we could build it up. Like a former champion, the most title defenses in my weight division. We could promote this fight well and make it fun to watch." Usman, who shares management with Makhachev, ruled the welterweight division from 2019 to 2022, recording 5 straight successful title defenses and establishing himself as one of the best fighters of his generation. Despite a 3-fight losing streak that included 2 title fights against rival Leon Edwards, Usman returned to the win column in June, defeating Joaquin Buckley, who had been on a 6-fight win streak. Makhachev believes this proves that Usman is worthy of another championship opportunity. Buckley was one of the contenders, Makhachev said. Usman simply took him apart, and everybody has already forgotten about this guy. But if Buckley won, he would have been 100% contender number 1. Makhachev is currently on a 16-fight win streak, tying him with the legendary Anderson Silva for the longest in UFC history. Before capturing the welterweight belt, he held the lightweight title, successfully defending it 4 times before moving up to take the 170-pound belt from JDM at UFC 322. He expects the UFC to make a decision soon on his next opponent, but remains confident in his place in the division. "There's a lot of options for me," he said. "Welterweight is really lively now, so we'll see. I don't care. The UFC will probably offer me someone soon, and I feel I am going to stay in this division for a long time, holding the belt and feeling comfortable."